Hi, my name is Pitmaster Broda. You might know me as that guy who does those annoying video responses as Yoda on Twitter. What you might not know about me is I have a very diverse amount of opinions about games and movies because I'm not a sheep like you. Let's face it, we both know a lot of you only like some things because you're just going with the crowd, or you hate it because your little pea brain can't understand its true genius. So how about you sit down, shut up, and don't look at me like that. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, released back in 2002. This movie's often seen as a classic in the superhero film genre, and for many of you growing up, your first superhero movie. Now, I'm not going to go into Spider-Man's origins or the entirety of the plot from the 2002 film. Most of you guys should be familiar with Webhead's origins by now, given he's one of the OG superheroes on the block. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was a major financial success, scoring over $100 million in a single weekend, and became the most successful film based on a comic book franchise adjusted for inflation in the worldwide market, and the 7th highest grossing movie of all time. That's definitely quite a string of accomplishments for this movie, isn't it? Unfortunately, 2002's Spider-Man has an extremely problematic scene that needs to be discussed in great detail. The scene takes place just after Peter Parker obtains his superhuman abilities and attempts to profit off of them by signing up for a cage match with Bonesaw McGraw. Upon the match starting, Spider-Man jumps to the side of the cage to avoid being charged at by Bonesaw. Spider-Man afterwards taunts his foe with this line:
"That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?"
Bonesaw is visibly angered at the comment and attempts to pursue Spider-Man violently, but is ultimately beaten with a series of high-powered kicks and laid to rest by the hero. We learn a lot about Peter Parker's character traits prior to this scene. He's awkward, he's a nerd, he's highly intelligent, an outcast, and he's very close to his aunt and uncle. Now we can add one more character trait: homophobic. That's right, Spider-Man used a homophobic insult to taunt his opponent during the cage match. But when you analyze the scene even further, you learn that there's even more going on within it, and you begin to ask yourself questions. Why did Bonesaw get so angry upon hearing the homophobic comment? Is it because of the suggestion that he was in a stable homosexual relationship considered an attack on its overly masculine public image? Or is Bonesaw a homophobe himself for getting mad? Is it homophobic to use a homophobe's own homophobia against themselves? Did Spider-Man know Bonesaw was a homophobe prior to the cage match, or did he detect it with his spider sense? Does that make Spider-Man's powers inherently homophobic too? Is Spider-Man's spider sense a reverse gaydar that tells him where homophobes are hiding? We also must consider the possibility that Bonesaw McGraw really did have a loving husband, and disliked that a straight white male referenced him in a mocking manner. That makes this scene even worse because a superpowered homophobe just beat a proud gay man to a cheering audience. This theory technically makes the entire audience bigots by proxy because of how fast they turned on Bonesaw when he was being taunted with a homophobic insult and then quickly beaten by a straight white man. Despite all the questions and analysis of this scene, we still don't know exactly what drove Peter Parker to make a homophobic insult at his opponent. Did he learn it from school? Did Flash Thompson trick him into picking up the soap in the showers during PE class, and Peter resented gays ever since? The weird thing is, Peter Parker never says another homophobic insult again after this scene, or in the sequel Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. However, there is actually an explanation as to who taught Peter to be a bigot, and what ultimately made him change. Shortly after the cage match with Bonesaw, Peter Parker fails to stop a robber with the excuse that it wasn't his business, and the same robber fatally shoots his Uncle Ben to steal his vehicle. Peter learns that using his powers for personal gain cost him greatly, and he goes on to take down his uncle's murderer. Peter Parker learned that he was being a selfish punk, and decides to use his powers to help others as Spider-Man. By being a better person, it helps him gain confidence to pursue the girl of his dreams as well. Peter's life changes for the better. It's at this point it becomes crystal clear who was holding Peter back. Through research and data, it's suggested that kids and teenagers learn many of their bad behavior traits from their parents, or in Peter Parker's case, his aunt and uncle. Peter's selfish behavior and attitude instantly change upon the death of his uncle, and he decides to be a better person. Now let's take a look at Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben was a boomer, and boomers often retain many old-fashioned values like bigotry, racism, and drinking Monster Energy drinks. Peter and his aunt also become much closer to one another after Ben's passing. This is likely because Uncle Ben beat his wife during alcoholic-fueled rages and probably beat Peter too while calling him homophobic insults. Uncle Ben's demise helped Peter Parker understand that everything he learned from Uncle Ben was wrong. That's why he decides to be a better person, drop the homophobia, and become something greater. Although Tobey Maguire's version of Peter Parker learns how to be a better person by the end of the movie, that still means he was a homophobe at one point. So this actually makes him the worst Spider-Man to date. Andrew Garfield wanted Spider-Man to be gay in the rebooted series, The Amazing Spider-Man. That means Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker is the best version of the character to date. I hope you guys all learned something today about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and if you still like the movie, that's okay too. It just means you're a bigot and you can't change that. Anyways, I'll catch you guys next time. Pitmaster Broda out.
Thank you.